of this week's discussion, sales and marketing. My name is Omead Sedghian and this is ABI 314. So for this scenario, I've picked scenario from chapter 9. In deciding to offer flight instruction at your FBO, you must consider whether to offer these services under 14 CFR Part 61 or Part 141. What are the pros and cons of each, and which one will you choose? So first, we need to understand what the difference between these two are. Part 61 and Part 141 have almost the same outcomes. They're both regulations in which we can conduct flight training. However, there is a slight difference. Part 141 is approved by the FAA and it comes with some benefits that we'll discuss later. And Part 61 is where students can train on their own time and also has its own benefits and downsides, and we'll discuss each one. So for Part 61, the advantages are lower administrative burden, lower startup time, and it's also attractive to all types of students. The reason why there is lower cost involved initially is that you don't have to deal with the FAA on getting your TCOs approved. Flight instructors can decide how they want to train, so it's mainly flight instructor oriented. And all kinds of students can benefit from Part 61. However, there are some disadvantages. It is harder to market to students, especially if certain students need some financial aid. It's going to be harder to get those for a Part 61 training. And also, certain students that are using benefits such as the GI Bill, they won't be able to participate in Part 61. And most small flight schools fall under this category. Part 141, there is a lot of advantages involved. That is what I'm personally training under right now. It is easier to market. TCU is approved by the FSDO, and it's attractive to students that are on the path to become a professional pilot. With that comes some reduced minimums. Now, with the TCOs being approved by the FSDO, you are limited on how many times you can take a certain lesson, how much time you're allotted per lesson. However, students can take advantage of things such as financial aid in order to enroll in the Part 141, and the GI Bill is also approved for it. There are some disadvantages involved on the flight school side. They have to work very closely with the FAA. Now, this can be an advantage or a disadvantage. However, I think from a management's point of view, that's just a lot more work for you, and you have to be a lot more organized and more transparent with the FAA. And it is a lot more expensive to start. Aircraft have to be in a certain condition. For example, if you're using GI Bill for your students, they need to have certain equipment installed, which will cost money. And also your maintenance will be a little bit heavier since you have to make sure that the airplanes are a certain standard. A great example of this school is ATP and also Liberty University's program. So in conclusion, in deciding which one is best for us in our flight school, it really depends on your clientele. Who are you dealing with? Are you in an area where people are just flying for fun? Or are you in an area where people travel to in order to conduct flight training to become professional pilots? And also depending on how much money you have in your pocket at the moment when you're starting the flight school. So I want to say that Part 141 is probably what I will be going with. Granted, money is not an issue. And the reason for that is, first, having that FAA oversight and working closely with the FSDO is not a bad thing. I like having that oversight. They can always call you out on your problems. And also you can offer Part 141 as well as Part 61 to your students. So you don't have to do one. Once you're for Part 141, you're able to market your school. It's going to look better. People are going to trust you a little bit more. So in our FBO, which is Vantage Air in Chesterfield Airport, would I add a Part 141 school? Yes, I would. And the reason for that is that there is flight training happening here. We have multiple Part 141 schools in this area, and they are all doing business, and it seems to be working. Also, we can offer Part 61 to our leisure pilots that are flying the Cirrus aircraft. So in general, Part 141 is going to help us generate more income, and it's going to have it's going to be easier for us to retain students. Our biblical integration for the week is Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. So we need to remember we are trying to generate money here. However, at the end of the day, we have to answer to the Lord himself. So we need to do everything thoroughly and properly and make sure that we are serving our clients and not taking advantage of them. And part 141 will help us do that better. Here is my references, and thank you very much for watching.